It's been my honor to serve the organization this year, and I was quite excited when I figured out that it was our 25th anniversary, because it would give us the opportunity to recognize our founders and past leaders, and also look at it, would give us the opportunity to review the history of AAHKS and also look into our future. We were fortunate that the founders of this organization had the wisdom to focus on education, advocacy, and research. And I think our success can be attributed to the adherence of this mission. And I think that's why we've had the tremendous growth that we've had over the past decade in particular. So it's my pleasure to present to you our 25th anniversary celebration. So I thought I'd give you a little context for while Dr. Rano and Dora were thinking about this organization, what was actually going on in the world. Try to see how many of those people you actually recognize, and we'll review them during the course of this celebratory event. So the world was really in turmoil, and a lot of amazing things happened in 1991. We had Operation Desert Storm in Kuwait. Apartheid was dismantled in South Africa. The Soviet Union officially ceased to exist. Rodney King was arrested in Los Angeles, and that arrest was captured on video, and the internet was available for unrestricted commercial use for the first time. What about United States use? George H. Bush I was the president. A gallon of gas averaged $1.12. Magic Johnson was diagnosed with HIV. Serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested for murder. That's him up in the corner there. The tailhook scandal was in Las Vegas was revealed, and Clarence Thomas was accused of sexual harassment and then confirmed as Justice of the Supreme Court. So an interesting year in the United States in 1991. What about sports? My beloved New York Giants beat the Buffalo Bills, and that was a picture before of Scott Norwood. NC2A football, Washington won the Rose Bowl and was named national champion. Miami was actually the co-national champion. Duke beat Kansas in the NC2A basketball tournament. Payne Stewart, who's no longer with us, won the US Open. Strike the Gold was victorious in the Kentucky Derby. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls won the first of their 6 NBA championships. And in the World Series, the Minnesota Twins beat the Atlanta Braves in the 7-game series. Jack Morris won 10 innings, he went 1-0. And ESPN called that the greatest World Series in baseball history. What was the best picture in 1991? Does anybody remember? Don't yell it all out at once.
Once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
What do you think his HCAP scores are? What about the Billboard #1 song of the year? Anybody recognize that? Bryan Adams, Everything I Do for You. I hear Dr. Callahan humming that frequently. Entertainment, as we said, Silence of the Lambs was the Academy Award winner. The animated movie, if you have children, you've seen this movie till you're nauseous, Beauty and the Beast. Billboard Top Number 100, #1 song, we had Everything I Do for You by Bryan Adams. And the top toy was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so that was the world in 1991. I hope for some of you remember those events, either fondly or without too much misery. Okay, we're going to move on now. You saw that Mike Berend had a timeline that he made up that's out there in the runway to the auditorium, and we've kind of animated that to bring to you some of the highlights of AAHKS since 1991. So what we wanted to do is capture from the founders, leaders, and future leaders what they thought about the organization. There's so many people that we could have talked to, but we only had a limited amount of time, so I apologize to those of you who we weren't able to reach out to. And so we'll start out with the early years, and in this you'll hear Dr. Ranawat at some point talk about the switch from the name, why we had the name change to the American Association in Hip and Knee Surgeons. So here we are with an introduction and the early years of AAHKS. My name is Jay Lieberman, and it is my honor and pleasure to be president of the American Association of Hip and Knee Surgeons. This is a very special year for AAHKS because we are celebrating our 25th anniversary. The goal of this commemorative video is to recognize our past and present and to contemplate the future of this wonderful organization. You're going to hear from some of our founders, past presidents, and future leaders. It's hard to believe how much AAHKS has grown since the original meeting in Dallas in 1991. We now have 2,500 members from the United States and 36 countries around the world.
Everything began in summer of '89, closed meeting of the Hip Society. There, this was the third time I had brought this subject to the administrative board to consider to form an organization where all surgeons who do hip and knee surgery should be included, as against a hip and knee society where only the top of the top are invited and they become members. So that was the mission. Took 3 attempts on my part for the Hip Society to agree upon, and Dr. Philip Nelson was the president, the year he finally agreed, and he took my presentation to the membership at large in the annual meeting and said that we are trying to form an organization and he needed their membership support. Finally, he got it. And the first executive board meeting happened in March of 91, and that's the date of formation of this organization.
AAHKS was created because Chit Ranawat and I had a conversation. We knew there were a couple of prominent surgeons that had not been able to get into the Hip Society, and it caused some unrest. And we were fairly sure a new organization was going to be formed, and we thought it was much better if we formed the organization with some control of how it was going to be run, and that it fit well into the pattern of our orthopedic community. And so we called a meeting with Phil Nelson, who was president of the Hip Society, and Dick Welch was there. I think he was Knee Society maybe at the time. And to get their support for this, because we didn't want to have a rancorous beginning. And there was agreement that we could do this. And I remember at that meeting, I made the comment, you know, I just think that this could grow as big as 1,000 members. And of course, I was wrong on that, because it's over 2,000 now. So that's actually a thrill.
To educate surgeons in art and science of hip and knee surgery, and be advocate for the patient, and most importantly, be a representative body for hip and knee surgeon at Washington.
So we then expanded that original group. We brought Jim Rand in because Jim was so good at being a record keeper and helping with organization. And Phil Nelson became the first president, and Chip kind of became the liaison to the Hip Society, and I became the one to the Knee Society. And we got good cooperation. They both donated money, startup money to fund it. So we had our first meeting, and we had 65 people. And it was in Dallas. And the group was really enthusiastic, and they were really, really happy to have their own organization. And I still see that enthusiasm among all of the members that we have. And that first group, we made they voted to do a couple of things. One, they didn't want any industry. And secondly, they wanted to have a real emphasis on political action, so that they could help themselves in terms of representing themselves. The Academy was only a C3 at the time, and that didn't allow them to do anything other than education. So we registered as a C6, which would allow us to do political action, and we did. We formed our own PAC because it was the time of Hillary care, and that was the big issue. So we formed our own PAC, and we had our own lobbyist in Washington. And I think our efforts and our work on that time, I don't think we killed Hillary care, but we like to think we did.
At that moment in time, going back in history, academic organizations prided themselves on being exclusive, small, tight, 50 members, 100 members. And it was really the vision of Drs. Dorr and Ranawat to make this organization inclusive and diverse rather than exclusive, and allow its educational function to really enrich the professional lives of thousands rather than tens of surgeons. And that was the real essence high caliber education, inclusive, draw in the average good orthopedic surgeon who did hip and knee reconstruction to allow them to share the concepts of the thought leaders in orthopedic surgery. Well, we struggled to get speakers, we struggled to get an audience, we struggled to become financially solvent, and we struggled to draw the leadership of the world of arthroplasty into this organization. And fortunately, the senior members shared this vision and had the energy and were articulate and were thought leaders and really led to its very rapid success, which has been ongoing.
We had to register this as a 501c organization, and me, Larry, and I believe Jim, we are the three people who signed the document. So that was a legal advice to us that if you were an association, that's a better term for a 501c organization. So that was the reason.
I think I ran the AV, and it was kind of a mom and pop show, and certainly compared to how it is today, large halls and fancy digital AV. But it just grew from there.
Then we talked to some of our former leaders, past presidents, about what do they think they could attribute the great growth of AAHKS over the years.
Well, I think that the main thing that's been responsible for AAHKS's huge growth in the last 10 to 15 years has been the recognition that there are a huge number of orthopedic surgeons who have joined arthroplasty as their specialty and who wanted to have a society to call their own, wanted to have a society that focused on their education, their needs, both political as well as scientific and educational. And as they found that home, I think AAHKS has served that purpose very, very well.
I think that the growth of the organization is a tribute to its success and effectiveness. There are no shortage of professional medical societies, and most people are not looking to join other societies, but this organization has been incredibly effective in all of its roles, education, advocacy, as well as interprofessional networking, and so its reputation precedes itself. And people want to be a part of an organization that's successful and dynamic and growing. And so I think that trend will continue. The annual meeting, which is really the cornerstone of the educational efforts, has really evolved right along with the growth in the membership to maintain that intimate dialogue amongst the members, but at the same time continue to elevate the quality of the educational programming.
AAHKS, I think, serves many roles today. It serves a role as a premier source of education for people that focus on arthroplasty. It also serves the role of disseminating arthroplasty information to the entire orthopedic community. And then it serves the role of serving the functions and needs of the members, both in their political needs as well as their needs to have their views expressed nationwide.
I think the real growth of AAHKS was just because of the need. You know, we started it out as an organization for people who were really grassroots people doing joint replacement surgery. And those numbers have grown obviously over the years. And because of that growth of people interested in that, AAHKS was able to grow. And I think the AAHKS really provided a forum for everybody doing joint replacement surgery, any sort of volume, as you know, you do about 50 a year, to be able to participate and to really have a tremendous learning experience over a relatively short period of time. And I think that was really the key to what we started it as, and it's just amazing how it's flourished through all these years. I think our increase in membership really came with the changing of health care over the last 25 years. I mean, I happen to have been I think it was probably the third program chairman for Dick Johnston, actually. And that year was the only year that we weren't in Dallas, because that year we decided that we would go to Washington and lobby against Hillary Care. Hillary Care is basically the managed care proposals of Hillary Clinton. It actually didn't work out, and it didn't pan out that we had to do that, but actually that process and that year of lobbying, I think, really catapulted us toward what we were really interested in, and that was economics of joint replacement surgery, healthcare policy of joint replacement surgery, rather than just the doldrums of scientific papers with this amount of follow-up, that amount of follow-up, techniques, et cetera. Though I must tell you, back in those days, so like I said, I probably was about the third program chairman, that we had to just fight and to get enough abstracts to have something on health policy or something about economics. We just didn't have enough papers. People weren't really doing the research. We knew it was important. We wanted it done, but there was nobody out there investigating that.
The first meeting I went to, the entire attendance was in a small breakfast room having breakfast, and that was presided over by Dick Rothman, one of the early leaders, along with Chit, and it was a close-knit group, and I think that's how it started, and we need to not lose sight of those roots. How do we keep it small, interpersonal, as we experience the growth we've had?
Well, I think the principles, it's always important to act out of principles, not exigency. And the principles were inclusive, to have reasonable criteria for entrance into the organization, but to not exclude anyone who has a sincere interest in the field. Secondly, to make the program practical, applied knowledge. And thirdly, to protect the interest of its members, the political activity of AAHKS. So the details will shift from year to year. Society changes, our needs change, but we should adhere to the principles and adapt them to the current needs.
I think we really represent a model for all other subspecialties, whether it be advocacy, education, health policy, economics. I think we really have been the leaders out in front for all of orthopedics. And I think we've not only made joint replacement surgery better and helped joint replacement surgery, but I think we've helped everybody practicing orthopedics from that standpoint.
Then we asked our folks, what about our patients? Because that's really what this is all about, trying to provide access to care and advance the care of patients who need hip and knee reconstruction or treatment of hip and knee pathology.
AAHKS plays a very important role for our patients because it serves as the conduit by which the newest information is funneled to a large percentage of the surgeons who are doing a lot of arthroplasty. So it ensures current information goes out to people who are doing arthroplasty, and it also provides a means by which that current information gets disseminated to the rest of the orthopedic community.
I think most surgeons want AAHKS to fight for the patient probably first. To make sure we preserve access to care, make sure we educate our patients about the options they have for treatment of disabling arthritic conditions. And so a big arm would be communicating that not only to our members, but to the public at large.
Every joint surgeon that I know, I think, really tries to give the best to their patients. But remember, this care delivery and the care reception is a two-way street. And so patients have to be comfortable with their doctor. And sometimes that doesn't occur when we have a difference in the gender, race, ethnicity of the surgeon versus the patient. And so patients would feel, in general, they may feel more comfortable with someone who looks more like them.
The healthcare arena is quite challenging at the present time. We've had a lot of changes in healthcare because of the Affordable Care Act, and our concern is that some patients will be left out. they won't be able to have access to total hip and knee arthroplasty. It's AAHKS's job to educate legislators, potential patients, and insurers about these issues, because nobody is more expert in this arena than we are. And then we, to sum it up, we asked various individuals, what did they think about the future of AAHKS?
Well, I think AAHKS will continue to do what it's doing and just do more of it and do it better. And I think one of the things that's made AAHKS so successful is its ability to collaborate well with our sister and parent societies. So the opportunity for AAHKS to continue to work well with the Hip Society, the Knee Society, arm in arm with those two, and also work very well with the AAOS is going to be very important. It's been important, and I think it'll continue to be one of the keystones of our success.
I think AAHKS is very well positioned to help its members prepare for the evolving healthcare landscape that we are entering into. And I think the organization provides the necessary tools, both in terms of education and advocacy, to help our members succeed. And so I think it will continue to play a very important role, an increasingly important role in shaping the future of our profession.
I think we need to increase the number of women doing total joints, and we can encourage those women to join our organization, which I think will make us a stronger organization. It will help us improve health disparities, because we will have a broader vision and a broader view on issues related to care delivery. And we know that there are health disparities that exist. And so improving the diversity of our total joint arthroplasty workforce will help us address some of those disparities, which will then provide better care. And that's, of course, really what we're after at the end of the day.
Well, I think, as we look to the future and trying to understand how can we transmit as much information to our membership, again, so they can take the best care of their patients that's possible. We're looking at new ways. Certainly the fall meeting is a huge forum for surgeons to hear new ideas. And, you look at things like the symposia that we have at the meeting. And the one that comes to mind is the symposium we had on blood management about 5 or 6 years ago, and how that really changed the practice of orthopedic surgery in terms of hip and knee replacement with regards to blood management. In our own practice, we started using tranexamic acid. We went to lower transfusion thresholds, and that really kind of overnight really changed things in terms of the education. So I think the fall meeting is something we've done really well, but we're looking at doing other meetings. We're looking at a spring meeting that'll have a completely different format, that'll be more small group interactive sessions to get back some of that interaction we had when I first joined AAHKS 13 or 14 years ago, when I went to my first AAHKS meeting, when it was a smaller organization.
I don't think there's any doubt that we'll continue to grow from an educational standpoint. It's really more than just the annual meeting. And I think the marriage of technology and how we deliver education to patients and to surgeons is going to continue to grow, whether it's through webinars or additional meetings or online tutorials, CME questions that may go towards helping with maintenance of certification. I certainly think the delivery method of how we educate surgeons and patients is going to continue to grow and change over time.
AAHKS is truly a special organization, and we're all proud of its success. I can't wait to see what happens over the next 25 years. So AAHKS really is a terrific organization. You all should be proud to be a member of it, and I hope learning about this history and thinking about the future will stimulate you to become more involved, join the committees. As you'll hear in a few minutes, we're really going to need your help in some of our advocacy efforts if we're going to help enhance patient access and maintain the care that we want our patients to have. And so now I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you again to our past presidents, and if they would come up on the stage one by one as I call you out. Chit Ranawat. First of all, before we do that, a moment of silence for Phil Nelson and Hugh Tolos, who are no longer are with us. Thank you. Chitwanarat, 1992, 1993. Can we have the pictures, please? Chit. Right there. Lawrence Dorr, 1995. Hugh Tullis, 1996. If you go right there, Larry. Merrill Rinner, 1997. Richard Rothman, 1998. Jim Rand, 1999. Dick Welch, he's not here with us today, 2000. A young John Callahan, 2001. If you could just stand right there. Yes, sir. Doug Dennis, 2002. Cliff Cowell, 2003. It would be helpful if you walked in front of the table. No, we need you in front of the table. There may be presents, but they need to be organized. Come in front. Joe McCarthy, 2005. Bill Hozak, I don't even recognize him anymore, 2006. Come down a little bit, Dick. Dan Berry, 2007. Dave Llewellyn, 2008. Bill Robb, 2009. Mary O'Connor, 2010. Carlos Lavernia, 2011. Tad Vale, 2012. Tom Ferring, 2013. Brian Parsley, 2014. Oh, and me. Step up again. So thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that. And thanks for the past presidents and for those who participated in the video and was so articulate about their feelings about AAHKS.